Albo. You're in a hurry. You're helping Alma win a bet?
Yeah, it's a tough call, but you have to pull out all the stops in the murder inquiry.
Well, if Alma has a way, it'll be over by bedtime and we can all go home to the bosoms of our families. Job done.
Joe, Alma mentioned her beloved just now. I don't know if she's with anyone. Is that a new thing?
I'm not so tired of living that I'm going to give away Alma's secrets. It's private. The same way you only ever talk about Georgia and never your wife.
I don't talk about Emma.
I didn't even know that was her name, Jason. Like I said, I'm calling in a favor. I worked hard to put myself in the right place at the right time, and now it's up to you. Damn. Wow. You know how to creep up on people? I guess they train you in that, huh?
Professor McIver, I presume. I was looking for you, but I didn't expect to find you in Linda Denby's office using her phone.
Oh, I needed to make a call, and the phone in my office seems not to be working.
Nothing to do with wanting to make a call that couldn't be traced back to you.
Now, why should I be doing that? This is a university, Inspector, not the CIA.
A university where one of your colleagues was murdered today. I hear you weren't best pals with the Cecil Rhodes Professor of Geography.
Oh, come on, Inspector. The thing with Piper is he messed with people's lives. He played stupid games that hurt other people, but never touched him. Using that smug and insensitive title was just a tiny example of that. Oh, Cecil Rhodes, for crying out loud. It amused him to have that symbol of colonial power. He never stopped to think what it actually symbolized for those of our students who come from countries that are trying to escape their colonial past and build a different kind of future.
That's why you want his job, is it? To change the job title and show a bit of solidarity with the oppressed.
Might seem like a joke to you, but it means a lot to them.
My sergeant tells me there's a chunk of your morning you can't account for.
For crying out loud. I was in my office working.
With the door locked, according to Linda, who had to deal with a couple of your students who were looking for you.
Well, if my door was locked, obviously I was inside, not down the hall doing away with the professor.
A locked door doesn't reveal what side its owner is on.
Oh, very profound. You should consider philosophy, Inspector. You could give Bishop Berkeley a run for his money. Do you have any idea how hard it is to find time to think around here? The students are bad enough, but the staff are so damn needy. Oh, those poor white boys whose lives are cursed.
You're ambitious, Professor. You want Professor Piper's prestigious position. He wasn't about to give it up anytime soon. Why should I not have you right at the top of my suspect list?
Round here, we're used to waiting for dead men's shoes. Talk to Orlando Graham about plagiarism. Talk to Mary Adamson about being labeled a troublemaker. Talk to Christopher Brown about being kept in a permanent holding pattern. I'm just ambitious, Inspector. They're positively vengeful.
Alma's murder investigation is quickly turning into an intellectual version of Spin the Bottle, as everyone in the geography department sees a chance to get their foot on the next rung of the ladder. But who will be holding the bloody weapon when the music stops? At this point, your guess is as good as mine.
Dead Clever was written by Val McDermott. Now before the news, here's Peter Hennessy.
In our deeply sound-bitten age, we rarely hear politicians reflect about the ideas, people and experiences that shape them. Join me, Peter Hennessy, for a new series of reflections in which I ask seasoned politicians to look back on their life and times. My first guest is David Owen, Lord Owen, former Foreign Secretary and leader of the Social Democratic Party in the 1980s, who sought to remake the centre-left of British politics. That's Reflections, next Monday morning at 9 on BBC Radio 4.
BBC News at 8 o'clock. George Osborne says his first post-election budget is a budget for working people. Labour say it will make working people worse off. The Chancellor raised inheritance and personal tax thresholds and announced a new national living wage. His plans also included a 4-year freeze on working age benefits. Our assistant political editor, Norman Smith, says it was a budget to shape Britain.
Freed from the constraints of coalition and with Labour vanquished, this was a budget which Mr Osborne sought Conservative agenda for the next 5 years. At its heart, one that encouraged work and discouraged a life on benefits.
One unexpected announcement in the budget was a commitment to meet the NATO target of spending 2% of GDP on defence in every year of the decade. The Greek government has confirmed that it will submit a formal request for a new 3-year bailout loan tomorrow. It will also commit to reforms, including making pension and tax changes as early as next week. Shares in Barclays have risen by 6% after the bank announced its chief executive had been fired because of lacklustre growth. Anthony Jenkins had been in charge for less than 3 years. Rush hour started early in London this evening as workers tried to get home before a strike by London Underground workers, which began an hour and a half ago. The 24-hour walkout is over a new all-night tube service. A British Airways flight to Houston had to be diverted to Massachusetts after a man became disruptive and had to be restrained by fellow passengers. The plane landed at Logan Airport where he was arrested. Andy Murray is through to the Wimbledon semi-finals after a straight sets victory over Canada's Vasek Pospisil. He'll now face Roger Federer on Friday. Top seed Novak Djokovic also went through. A century by Joe Root helped England to recover from a shaky start on the first day of the first Ashes test against Australia. At close of play in Cardiff, England were 343 for 7. BBC News.
Now on Radio 4, it's time for The Moral Maze, live as usual. Here's Michael Burke.
Good evening. It wasn't exactly a secret, and today the Chancellor duly delivered. Inheritance tax has been lifted far enough for a couple to be able to leave their heirs a clear £1 million tax-free, as long as it includes the family home. There's luck for you. Often just accidental good timing in the property market makes you rich, and you can transmit that good fortune down the generations, along with a genetic package that points to, if not dictates, health, longevity, elements of intelligence, not to mention the advantages for your children of a house full of books and a good school. Life isn't fair. It's difficult to argue there's true equality of opportunity. Impossible to envisage a society with equality of outcome, even if you thought it was desirable. How much is it the state's responsibility to compensate for fate? Has it a moral duty to put a finger on the scales, tilt the balance towards those who are, in the widest sense, less fortunate? Several of the other budget measures today, the scrapping of targets for eradicating child poverty, for instance, seem to suggest we're turning against that idea. More, that what we have has been earned and taxed already, that our definition of poverty should be absolute, not relative, and is either less to do with luck than we thought, or a fateful fact of life that must be accepted. Is it really impossible to disentangle merit from good fortune? Pointless to try. Fraught with unintended consequences. Fate, morality and the budget, our moral maze tonight. Our panel, Claire Fox from the Institute of Ideas, the political analyst Jill Kirby, Matthew Taylor, Chief Executive of the RSA, and Giles Fraser, Anglican priest and radical. Matthew Taylor, legislate luck or against luck?
I think one of the measures of human progress is the degree to which we overcome fate and allow people to be the authors of their own lives. And I sadly think that we have become a society where accident of birth is more, not less important, and that is a responsibility. We have a responsibility to address that.
Well, as my mother always used to say, then by the grace of God go I. Whether it's God or luck, I do understand that being born in sub-Saharan Africa and poor, rather than Kensington with a silver spoon, has some impact. But there's something about this debate that disturbs me. They were deterministic, actually almost denying that you can transcend your fate of your own volition. I definitely don't want the state making my luck for me. I'd rather go it alone and be free.
I agree with Claire. I think luck is omnipresent in human life, and so it's not a case of me deserving things. I just think I'm extremely lucky with what I get. I'm slightly bothered about the idea of luck and meritocracy, introducing the idea of a sort of deserving and undeserving poor, and I'm very worried about the distinction.
I think if we want more people to feel lucky and to spread success around, then we have to start with the family. And so anything that encourages families to be stronger and for parents to love and care for their children with greater commitment has got to be a good thing. I think a child growing up in a loving home has the best inheritance of all, and that's not about money.
Panel, thanks very much indeed. Our first witness is Trevor Abrahamson, who's founder and head of Glentree International.